Hi everyone, it's day 3, another episode of the Lady Black Kaleidoscope Project. So today I'm going to talk about something that is pretty serious and something that is kind of apropos to what's going on in the world today with coronavirus and the quarantine and everything like that. So my topic today is caregiving as a young adult. So caregiving, no matter how old you are, is really tough. It is incredibly difficult, and it takes everything out of you. It takes a lot out of you. And so I definitely real shout out to all the frontline health care workers who are taking care of their patients, and just also, prayers and good thoughts to those people, as well as people who are caregiving just normally, their family members, especially during a time like this when it's just everything's really up in the air, and for people who are, who have relatives who are in long-term care facilities or rehab facilities, or or nursing homes and stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of people are dying. A lot of people are dying from nursing homes because all those people together. So that's really sad. But anyway, so I just want to send out, good vibes and love and prayers to all those various groups who are dealing with caregiving directly, either as that's their job and this is their way of life, or just specifically during this time, during coronavirus, this whole pandemic. So let me tell you my caregiving story. So basically, I moved back home in 2005, and in the January of 2006, my grandmother got dizzy and she couldn't. It was hard for her to come downstairs, so she spent the last 2 years of her life upstairs. And at that time, I was almost 23, and I had just finished a job at Lord & Taylor, doing like the Christmas stuff. And that was the last time that my grandmother was downstairs, was in 2005, December 2005. And so in 2006, my grandmother went upstairs, and so my mom and we decided that I would stay home during the day because I was looking for work and I wasn't finding anything, and my mom had a job, so it was a bird pan. So she took care of her at night, and then I took care of her during the day. It was hard on both of us. As I said, we're both only children, and I'm being a super only child because I'm an only child. So it was hard on both of us. Luckily, we had each other, but there was definitely hard. I mean, my mom was in her 50s, and I was in my early 20s. I just got out of school, so I wanted to, go and be young and go drinking and partying, and I wanted to leave Philadelphia. I was only planning on being in Philadelphia for like maybe a year or so and save up money to be able to go and live abroad. That was my plan. But when you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So that of course didn't happen. So I spent the next 9 months caregiving for my grandmother until one day in September of 2006, I was visiting my friend who lived in the suburbs from college, and she was home. It was right before she went back to Barnard, and where I went to school. And I had told her, I had enough. I can't do this. It's only 9 months. I feel so cut off. I don't have friends here. My job opportunities are very limited. I want to move back to New York. And she's like, yeah, you should. Like, if you're not happy, you should do that. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I told my mom that night. I was like, I'm getting my stuff and moving back to New York. And so, I didn't want to go home but I had to because I had to get my stuff and I had to say goodbye to my grandmother and everything like that. And my mom's like, well, let me take you to the bus station. And she gave me a few $100s, and I called my friend and said, hey, can I, stay at your place? And my plan was just I was going to couch surf until the money ran out or until I got a job. But we were downtown about to go to the bus station, and we sat on a bench or something, and my mom just looked really sad, and it was just a really hard time. She's like, I know things are hard and stuff, but like we can make it work. I'm like, no, I want to go. I need to do my own thing. I can't just stay here. And I just got a terrible feeling, in my stomach. It made me sick. Like I felt like I was going to barf. It was probably nervousness. It was probably my gut telling me that I needed to stay. And I was like, no, I need to go. But ultimately, I felt I couldn't just leave my parents. I couldn't leave my mom in a lurch. I couldn't leave my grandmother even. Though my opportunities in Philadelphia were limited and that I had no real solid friendships in Philadelphia. So I'll just stay and make it work. And I went home just crestfallen. It was terrible. It was one of the worst days of my life. But it was a very fateful decision that I made, which led to where I am right now, talking to you on a camera. So I stayed, and I still looked for work, didn't find anything. Then it was just, my grandmother was just getting worse and worse and worse. She was 95 years old when she went upstairs, and she passed when she was like 97 and a few months. So, but before that, a year later in September of 2007, I did City Year because I had told my mom, I was like, I need to do something. I can't just sit here and not do anything. And so that's what I did. When I joined City Year, I was at a really low point. I had just been spending basically the better part of 2 years taking care of my grandmother without really any contact with the world outside of the internet, outside of going to the library. We didn't have internet in the house. We just got internet actually recently in the house for the first time since I was in college. So right before then, I had some intense long nights where I like chopped off all my hair, and I thought about taking my own life, but I didn't do it. I didn't attempt it because I was just like, oh, this is just a rough time, because I felt so alone. I felt so trapped, and I felt so powerless, and I felt like, when am I going to get to do what I want to do, and all those things. So that was hard. And so fast forward a few months later, my grandmother died on January 10, 2008, which is a month shy to the day of my 25th birthday. So, of course, that was terrible. Worst day. I'll probably talk about that in a later episode of that particular day. I was. This is the morbid kind of scary part, was that I was preparing myself for what was going to happen after my grandmother died. So that's part of the reason why I did City Year, because I needed to meet new people, to be there for me and meet new friends. I didn't think that she was going to die during my first year of City Year, but that's what happened. City Year basically is an AmeriCorps program, and if you don't know what AmeriCorps is, it's like a domestic Peace Corps. So I did City Year for 2 years, and I served at a school up in Kensington, which is now a charter school. It's Jones Middle School, but now it's like Memphis Street Academy or something, so up in Kensington. So I'll talk about City in another episode. But anyway, so I knew that I was going to have to be there for my mom, because I knew my mom would be a wreck, because that was her best friend. She was her only child, and I was my grandmother's only grandchild. So I knew that I was going to have to stay and be here for my mom. I figured I would only stay for a couple of years, and then just to be there for her and help her through the process of not having her mother anymore. At the same time, trying to grieve myself, because she was my grandmother and she lived in the house. I've known her all my life. I lived with her all my life up until that point when she died. So then my mom, so that was hard. I ended up staying with my mom for 5 years, and really, and this was that. And so when City Year ended, it was the height of the recession, and that was in 2009. And I, of course, struggled to find any jobs. I had some piecemeal jobs here and there. I was unemployed for long periods of time, and it was really hard. And I basically became a shell of myself, and just was a body, because when your grandmother dies, especially if she was a parent, a second parent to you, I mean, it took the wind out of my sails, and that was really hard. So then my mom had a few eye surgeries that I was there for her for, during that 5 year period. And then how I helped myself be able to stay here and grieve and be sad was a friend of mine who I met from City Year. He really helped me, and helped me through that process. I think he was there for that particular season. We haven't been in contact in a long time, but he was there for that particular season of my life when I just needed someone to kind of hold me up and just be there for me during this. My whole world was upside down. Our family structure was forever altered. And then when I was 30, my plan was, okay, I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to leave Philadelphia finally and go back to school. But then my mom, she wanted to retire, and she did, because her knees were terrible. She was a school teacher in the school district of Philadelphia. And she told me, she's like, I need you to stay because I need knee surgeries. And I was just like, oh, I've already been here for 8 years. I want to move on with my life. And so my mom, so I was just like, okay, I'll be here for you. So she had to space out her surgeries because of just recovery. She had to get knee replacements. One, I think her right knee was first, and then the second, her left knee. She got her right knee replacement in September of 2014 when I was 31. And then she got her last one in June of 2016 when I was 33. So after that, I was like, Mom, I'm done. I got to move on with my life. I'm 33 years old. I cannot just stay here indefinitely. And I spent the last 4 years basically processing the first 33, and just, going to CCP and looking on the internet and doing just a lot of intense inner work on myself, because of caregiving wears you out. It really, really just takes everything out of you, especially if you were doing it basically for 10 years and 9 months. That's going to take, on and off. It's going to take a toll on you. So, here we go. What are some lessons that I learned from my caregiving experience? Okay. Because there are a lot of things you learn when you caregive, especially if you caregive for over a decade, on and off. There are things you're going to learn, especially as a young adult. So it required me to make a lot of sacrifices. Me and sacrifice are like best friends. And, anybody who caregives is going to you're going to have to make sacrifices. That's just the reality of caregiving. But as a young adult, it's hard, because this is the time that is typically seen for you, and you need to go and do what you want to do and have good times and be, be about you. It's like me, 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 me. This is what it should be. You're an adult, you're a young adult, go move out, be in the world, do your thing. And I did the complete opposite. I denied my own needs, and I helped my family with what they needed from me to be there for them, because I was their only child. I was my mom's only child. I couldn't go somewhere else. And she was her mom's only child. So we didn't have money to have a professional caregiver or anything like that. It was us. It was just me and her splitting the time. And then when my mom had her various surgeries, it was just on me. I had to run the house and pay the bills and do all of her errands and everything like that. On top of, I was in school at the time, especially with the knee surgeries. I was in school at the time, taking classes, and balancing that it was really hard. And then it was just really hard, and it made things really tough. So I lost friends because of that because people just couldn't understand because I was unhappy. And they're like, well, you should go. If you're unhappy, you should go. And I'm like, I can't do that. It's not that simple. It's not that, But a lot of the people that I was telling these things to were people who came from dysfunctional families. And the last thing that they wanted to do was they couldn't understand, like, how could you be with your family? Because they ran away from their families. They didn't want to be with their families. And, because I hadn't kept in touch with anyone who I grew up with, who knew my family and knew how important my grandmother was to me and knew how close we were as a unit, the three of us, who understood that. The new people I was meeting, they didn't understand that. They didn't know me. And they just saw me as unhappy and they wanted to help. And they tried, but it didn't help. They weren't the support that I needed. So I had to, unfortunately, a lot of those friendships didn't survive. And some people just thought I was, everybody had their own opinion about what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And I'm like, you don't know. And they're like, well, I would do this. I'm like, you don't know what you would do if you're in this situation. When you have to caregive, you have to make a lot of hard choices and a lot of hard decisions. And I was a young adult, so I didn't have the emotional capacity to do it. So it was really hard, and it required a lot of sacrifice, personally and professionally. I was working in the nonprofit sector, specifically in youth development and out of school time. And in Philadelphia, this is not a market that's rich in those jobs. So I had to struggle to find jobs, which I didn't end up finding. I spent a lot of time unemployed because there would be 100 people competing for one job. And I sent out so many resumes and interviews and everything like that. And what the kicker was is that these jobs were serving Black and brown students in the inner city, and a lot of the jobs that I would see, they would be going to white people from not the inner city, from somewhere completely different. And I was like, what? Like, what? Like, I'm somebody from that looks like the people that you're serving. So why wouldn't you hire me? I'm just as qualified as anybody else, because I would see my white friends from city here and they've got these jobs. And I'm like, I have just as much education and just as much experience as you. So that was very frustrating to me. And I did that search for 8 years, and then I had to stop and go back to school and try to figure out what I wanted to do. Socially it cost me a lot because I didn't really have a lot of friends in Philly, and I still don't have really any friends with Philly. So, any close friends, I guess. I have acquaintances, people that I know, but they're not like my best friends or anything. So that's been really, really tough. I haven't had romantic relationships. I didn't have time. I wasn't thinking about having a partner. I wasn't thinking about those things. I'm thinking about that now because that period finally is over. But I didn't have a boyfriend. I had male friends, like just guy friends, but I haven't had a boyfriend yet. So we'll see what happens. It forced me to grow up. Okay, I'm going to talk faster. So, it did. It forced me to grow up. Like, I had to learn a lot as a young adult. There were decisions that I couldn't make. There's decisions that I had to make that I didn't have the emotional faculties to do, that I kind of had to just play by ear. Did I always make the right decisions? No, I didn't. But I did what I thought was the best decision at the time. And some people supported it and some people didn't. I also had to learn to compromise. I had to learn to become emotionally independent and not always look for support, because you're not always going to have support, because no one that I knew, none of my peers were on my path. Nobody was caregiving for their parents or their grandparents. Everybody was living their lives and doing the things that I wanted to do, like go and live abroad and go around. I was stuck here, taking care of my family, because that was my priority. That's what I did, and that was the most important thing to me. And then finally, it saved me. It saved me from myself. It saved me from my own ego and external expectations. I've been on my own path all my life, but I thought I was a failure. I've struggled with feeling like a failure because I'm not doing what everyone with my education or with, what I should be doing. I chose my family. That was the most important thing to me. And that, is going to prepare me for being a wife, for being a mother. Eventually, when my mom gets older, I'm going to have to be there for her again. So it it saved me. It saved my soul. I mean, I am such an amazing person now to myself because of the experience that I had caregiving. Caregiving saved my soul. It protected me. It kept me from doing stupid stuff. There are a lot of stupid, reckless things that people do, and I didn't do them because I was too busy caring for my parents. So that wasn't my priority at the time. So it did save me from doing a lot of stupid crap, and it saved me just from my own ego and my own things. It like made me dead to my ego, which is always beneficial, and it gave me coping mechanisms and coping skills. I started to meditate, and I've been meditating for the last 8 years, and that has completely changed my life, which I will probably talk about in another episode. But like, there's so many beautiful things that I've gotten because of being able to caregive and be able to be there for my parents. I mean, it was a way of paying back. Like, they did everything for me. They sacrificed everything for me. The least I could do was to return the favor. I didn't think it would be in that way. I thought I would do it in a different way, but these were the cards that I was dealt, and this is what I had to do with it. So I did the best that I could, and that's all I can say. I did the best I could. Was I perfect all the time? No. But that's the thing about life. Like, you're not always going to do it right. But as long as your heart's in the right place and you're doing it for the right reasons, it's okay. And people are going to judge you. People are probably going to judge me based on my experience right now. But I did what I did, and I own it. And you wouldn't know what you would do in a situation. You have to really become empathetic and put yourself in that place before you're going to judge and say, oh, she's this or she's that and stuff like that. So it's hard to caregive at any age, but it is definitely really hard to caregive as a young adult because of all the things that I've said before. But at the end of the day, I would make the same decision because they're my family, and that's what matters the most to me, is to do the right thing, and to do the right thing by the people who gave me life and brought me into this world and were the bridge that brought me safely across. And that is the most important thing to me. I don't care what anyone else thinks. These are my parents. I love them. I care about them, and I would do anything for them, just as they would do anything for me. Okay. I just was on my soapbox right there. So once again, I'm going to close with a poem. It's called Caregiver by Siv Golding. I don't know if it's a male or female, or Siv is a male or female. It was written in 2012, and they are a caregiver advocate. So, fulfilling a promise, toiling through thin and thick, commitments abounding to family, friends, work, and all. No time to smell roses or savor the sunset, feelings suppressed from dreams unfulfilled, intimacy shattered and memories erased, friendships faded and loved in cage. Release yourself from frustration and anger. Release yourself from the burden of guilt. Let the tears roll free to let out all the sadness. Give others a chance to share in the care, a chance to give back before it's too late. Link up with the world. Refresh your perspective. Dare caring for you, both your body and soul. Release yourself to be who you are, with dreams to fulfill while able and strong. Embrace your life, the gift you are given. You are not to be blamed for your loved one's decline. Renewed, you can blossom. Freed up from the burden of guilt and despair. Reborn, love can flourish, and your care can become a blessing to share. So thank you. Please like this video. Please subscribe. Join the party. And just remember, keep on keeping on. Live it up. Live out loud. And embrace your kaleidoscope soul. So thank you. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Bye.